My boys think I'm Superman, so that's all I need.
It's easier to fight in sweats, that's all I'm saying.
Are you kidding? I've been called a lot worse, and I'll take that.
It's a little disconcerting to think that the children of America have a pretty good idea what I sound like in bed.
You know him best as Clark Kent. Let's bring out Tom Welling. Yeah, just sit here, we're gonna do this, and then...
I didn't want to just wait for these other slackers. We wanted to get the party started, right? All right.
Tom, the one thing that I loved most about your show was the father-son relationship with Jonathan and Clark. Talk to me about working and cultivating that relationship with John Schneider.
Well, it was actually really cool because I knew who John was from growing up on Dukes of Hazzard. But it wasn't until like the second or third season, he really did take me under his wing because I really didn't know what I was doing. And that whole like hand on the shoulder thing, that was actually John talking to Tom a lot of times.
Really?
And I remember it was like season 2, season 3, he goes, you know, I used to be on a television show myself. And I'm like, yeah, Dukes of Hazzard. He's like, you know that? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, why didn't you say anything? I was like, I've been too nervous. But he really tried to help me and protect me and guide me. And I think that carried over to the Clark thing because it could have been really easy for Clark to be like, I'm not listening to you. Sure. But it really just didn't feel like the right dynamic. So he's great. I still love seeing him. I love the guy.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but growing up, you weren't the biggest Superman fan, correct?
I mean, I watched the Chris movies.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like when people say Superman, that's who I think of. But I wasn't like a comic book guy or any of that. So I think that helped me playing Clark because Clark didn't know who he was going to be.
Well, the only reason I mentioned that is because now you're a dad. Talk to me about how your relationship with Clark and Superman has evolved after becoming a dad and letting the dust settle after Smallville.
I don't think I could play that naive anymore, to be honest. If you know what I mean, that'd be like real acting. Not that, but no, I think I appreciate the Jonathan Clark relationship probably more than I did at the time.
Sure.
No, it's really great. I mean, my boys think I'm Superman, so that's all I need.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I was listening to your podcast, and you said that your sons like dressing up as superheroes for like Halloween and stuff, and they won't wear. You asked them, like, why won't you put on Superman?
No, they don't have one.
They don't have one.
They never asked for a Superman costume, and I asked he was 5 at the time. I said, why not? And he goes, because he's taken. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you're Superman. So they have like Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, like you name it. They have too many, to be honest. When they start going through looking for stuff, I don't know if anybody has kids, everything they touch just goes behind them as they look for something else. You know what I mean? And then it's just covered. But we spoil them a little bit with that. It's fun though.
Oh, we got Dean Cain.
Look who's here. You know, we just got started. I didn't want to make you wait.
Oh, Brandon Routh, Tim Daly, Tyler Hecklin, and George Newbern. Here we go. The Superman in the house. We have a full panel, guys. All right, we have the full Superman here. The role of Superman comes with a lot of responsibility and fan expectation. For each of you, how did you prepare for the role mentally, and what was the most challenging aspect of getting into the character's head?
Let's see. I didn't want to think about it too much because it would have freaked me out. Strongest guy in the superhero universe. I thought of my older brother who was an Eagle Scout and is now an orthopedic surgeon. So I sort of thought, what would my brother sound like? And that's where I went.
I kind of always thought like to give him a little bit of an imposter syndrome. I think everybody kind of experiences that in a certain way. So yeah, he can do all these things, but there's still, he is an alien living amongst humans. So there's still like that element of imposter in a way that you kind of have to deal with. So that kind of like humbled him for me and made him very relatable in the sense of, I was almost played him like almost embarrassed of being Superman.
Really?
Like the idea of the name. So we actually in the flashback episode, we had the line where she says, how did you know this was happening? I said, oh, my hearing. And at first I said my super hearing. And I had asked our showrunner, I'm like, can we just say my hearing? And then she says, hearing? And I go, well, my super hearing, as just kind of an aside. Yeah, and then good. So when I leave at the end of that scene and they go, who was that? She goes, that's Superman. So she kind of gives the name. And so we kind of, playing with that a little bit, it was like it grounded him for me and made him really more relatable. So,
Tim?
Can I tell a slightly off-color story?
Absolutely, you can. That's what we're here for, baby.
Do it. There he goes.
This woman who was interviewing me said, Al was interviewing me, sorry. And he said, so what is it like doing the voice of Superman? And I said, well, it's interesting because he's always getting smashed, with stuff and girders and trains and, electrocuted and laser beamed and all this stuff. And I said, so the majority of my work is actually a lot of grunting, straining, screaming, and yelling noises. And I said, come to think of it, it's a little disconcerting to think that the children of America have a pretty good idea what I sound like in bed.
Or the bathroom.
Better you said bed than the bathroom. I was going with that.
The woman from Warner Brothers who was there was like, cut. And they sent me a very nice letter asking me to please desist from saying things like that in public.
Brandon, I'm sorry you had to hear that.
I was continually preparing myself for it through the 7-8 month process of getting cast, and Chris always was who I modeled the character after before it was the script that it was, back when it was another version of the script, and the same core and the same heart, so I felt that, I guess, strongly enough, and I trusted in whatever that was that I couldn't put to words. The energy that Chris, that I received from him in the role, and went with that as best I could.
I got the job, and then I went skiing 2 days later with my buddy. We had already a trip planned. We're going up the lift. It's quiet, and the snow's falling. And he just looks at me and goes, dude, for the rest of your life, someone's going to call you Superman. What does that feel like? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea, and you can never know until you're thrown into the fire. And obviously, all of us have experienced that. But it's pretty amazing, and it's something when people are like, "Does it bother you when people call you Superman?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? I've been called a lot worse, and I'll take that in a heartbeat." So honored to be up here with these guys, and honored to be able to play the character.
For me, to be honest, it was pretty quick. When they finally let me read the script after signing an NDA, I realized that this was not a show about Superman. It was a show about Clark Kent. And I've said this story before, but I had actually written into my contract that I wouldn't put on the suit because I wanted to stay Clark. Sure. And I wanted to tell that story. So I was able to just not think about, Clark didn't know who he was going to be, and I didn't know what I was doing, so it was kind of great. Perfect. Yeah. And it was probably episode 5. They wrote something where Clark puts a suit on, it was a business affairs call of no, we're not doing it. And I think if Clark would have put the suit on in the first 3 seasons, we'd have never gone 10.
I completely agree with you.
We kind of had to do that, and I meet some people who come to the table and they're dressed and they're like, "How come you didn't want to put the suit on?" And I hate breaking the heart, being like, "I never wanted to," and apparently they're tight. Yeah. And they don't breathe well. Tyler, I think that was your big one thing you would change, right?
It's great. It's easier to fight in sweats. That's all I'm saying. It's just easier.
I can imagine. Dean, the New Adventures of Lois and Clark really heavily focused on the relationship with Clark and Lois. Can you talk about your version of Clark and how you wanted to make him stand out compared to previous iterations of the character?
Well, I grew up with Christopher Reeve being my Superman, and I love that. But as Clark Kent, I was like, come on, don't be the nerdy guy. Be more like a Clark should be, which was more like the way George Reeves played Clark Kent. If any of you remember that one,
More confident, yeah.
George Reeves. And I liked that. He was cool. He was doing his thing, and Clark really was the character for Lois and Clark too. And Superman was a disguise that he put on that his mom made for him. You better believe it, which was so cool. It was so much fun to do. And I also love the fact that he had his father with him. That was a big part of our show that didn't exist in a lot of Superman lore, and it was great to have the parents teaching him and having him go through that process.
Brandon, you had mentioned earlier that your iteration, because especially your movie, Superman Returns, is a sequel to Superman 2. Can you talk about emulating Chris, but also still making the role completely your own?
The only conscious shift I thought I had about Clark was I didn't want him to necessarily just be bumbling and be clumsy. I had to figure out a reason why he's like that. He's not putting on an act, it's because he's excited to human. He hasn't humaned. He's very excited. Listen, I'm a human who didn't human that much until he until he moved out to got into college and then moved out to LA. Like I lived a kind of like, you know, quiet life, and it's fun to human, as long as we do it safely and with love. So
Absolutely. Are you guys down to play a fun little game we have set up? In Pixelated Showdown, you'll guess the iconic scene from your show as they sharpen from blurry to clear.
I'm down, but it's going to be tough on Tom. He had 10 seasons.
So yeah, it's going to be really tough on you, Tom. You have a fun story about, because this was a promo photo, right, that you did?
It's not a nude?
All right.
Looks like a nude to me.
That's my
It looks
headshot.
interesting, that's for sure.
That's my headshot.
Sure,
That's what Cinemax look like.
He's definitely got his shirt off, yeah.
Can we get that a little bit more clear?
There he is. There he is.
You know, I think it's a little harder if I have you guess which scene it is. So let's go to our second one,
I'll
if
have
we
to say
can.
really
a
love,
scene.
definitely.
Well, that's me.
Oh, this.
I'll tell you that right now. I can see the Asian eyes.
Look at that 8-bit.
There they are. That was a promo. That was a promo photo early on.
Do you have any fun stories about this promo photo and wearing this suit particularly?
Well, I was terrified to put the suit on because I was terrified because they brought me this one-piece of Lycra, and they said, put it on. And I had a little space, you know, go to the bathroom, and I was like, this doesn't feel super. And then Terry Hatcher had to go be naked with the cape on and sell all those photos, and sold more than I did. So I tried it, and it didn't sell as many.
This is gonna be hard, right? It's 1 out of 2. Let's get it a little clearer.
It's too cleanly shaven to be Tyler.
I'm feeling this.
A little bit more clear.
There it is.
Too cleanly shaven.
There he is.
There it is, Tim.
Justice League Superman, baby.
There it is. Can you talk about when you were first cast in the audition process for the role?
When I was first cast, it was a total mistake. I tried to do some Superman voice, and she said, "No, calm down, Buster. Just do it regular." And I did it, and they said, "You're hired." And I was like, "What?" I had no idea what was in store, and to my shame, I didn't quite understand what an archetypal character Superman was and how meaningful he was to so many people. I thought that I was doing something fun for a bunch of kids on Saturday morning. I didn't really realize that Superman had become part of the collective consciousness almost. So it was a responsibility that I don't think take quite seriously enough at the time. But I had a great time, and my Superman outfit was like my jammies.
That's the last, before when Clark opens up his shirt. Yeah, because there's no...
The only time they got you in it, isn't it?
Let's get a
that
little
was
clear.
on purpose.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's definitely
It
you.
was only a t-shirt. They didn't even build me a full suit.
Was it really only a t-shirt?
Kind of a onesie, though. Did you snap it across?
Pretty sure there weren't sleeves. It was just what you see.
Tyler, yeah.
That's going to be tough.
I'm not sure what that.
By the way,
is.
just so you know, from now on, in my mind, it's a crop top. Forever now, it's a crop top. Like that's 100%.
Tyler, you had a lot of different iterations of the suit. Like to me about your relationship with the suit, wearing it for 4 years, and how it got more comfortable over time. Did it?
The cape was made of like actual, like real, like heavy leather. So it was 12 to 15 pounds just dry, and then anytime we would be wet, it was like 30 because it just hold all the water. Honestly, the Fleischer suit was my favorite one to wear just because it's from that comic, which is awesome, and I got to do it just like a couple times in the flashback scenes and everything. So that was my favorite one to wear. It was a little bit more nostalgic and things
You
like
got to
that.
create that iconic Superman pose from like Superman #1, which is awesome.
On the show with the suit, were there like suit days where that was the day they were shooting everything in the suit? Or would they have you go in and out of it throughout scenes?
We would try to do that. We would try, but eventually we had to do things too, where like we'd be in it for a certain amount of time, and then we'd have to get out of it for a while, just because like stunt days and stuff. Doing like it looks great when it's on a mannequin, but like reaching across, like your left wrist is pulling on your right ankle, so it's just like throwing punches
funny.
and stuff. It's like a full day of stunts. You're like, let's take a break, let's pause, let's have a little bit of water, and then go reset. So yeah.
So we have a few
Can I tell one story about the suit?
What's that?
About the Superman suits. I don't know if this is common knowledge, but I knew Chris Reeve a little bit. Oh, I dropped something. It's a name.
Hold on, I'll get that for you. So did I. I worked with him as well. Yeah, we did. Sorry.
And
Did a movie with Chris, whatever.
And Chris told me that that the original
Good work.
Superman suit that he wore was a disaster. Like would break out in these terrible rashes. It was really horrible for him, and they had to, put salve on him or something like that. Anyway, I thought that was common knowledge, maybe, but that's what he told me.
Speaking of Chris Reeve, Tom, I wanted to ask you, because you got the torch passed to you by Chris Reeve himself when he played Dr. Virgil Swan. Can you talk about, A, his work ethic on set, what you learned from him just as a performer, and just being in the presence of him on that show?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously considering the circumstances of his condition, we got there and the plan was to shoot 4 hours and get his side of 2 scenes, and then he would leave, and then I would do my side with someone else. And we did the first scene, and then they said, okay, we're gonna go to the next scene. He goes, well, what about Tom? I mean, obviously he didn't point. I mean, that's not a bad joke. But sorry, I'm not making fun of him, because one thing he didn't do is let you you didn't feel sorry for him at all. He was actually telling jokes the whole time. We had a riot. He was cracking me up. But he was like, no, I'm not leaving. And long story short, it got to a point about 8 hours into the day, and they had turned around filming my scenes with him. And his nurse with power of attorney was like, if you don't come with me in 15 minutes, I'm calling the police. Because she could. Like, he had to leave, and he looked at me and he goes, they're always telling me what to do. Yeah, I walked away from it wanting to be a better person, that's for sure.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I love that story. I gotta ask, because I'm on stage and I'm never gonna get this opportunity, Superman, trunks or no trunks? What says you?
Thong?
Yeah. To go along with those Superman noises you were making, huh, Tim?
And it's true. I'm going to say something different. I'm going to just say the cape, and then the rest just commando.
There we go.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's...
It's a bird, it's a what? Hello.
It's a problem. Thank all of you for coming out here.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Claire, let's bring up some shirts that we can throw out.